9, 141. Solve these equations for x. Okay, so for A, I am going to copy it down just because I cannot write that teeny tiny on this app. So I have 2 times the quantity of x plus 3.5 equals 16. All right, so I have this 2 outside of my parentheses. I know I need to distribute it to each of my terms inside of those parentheses. So I have my x term, and then I have my constant, which is 3.5. So 2 times x is going to give me 2x, plus 2 times 3.5 is going to give me 7. So 2x plus 7 equals 16. All right, to get that 2x by itself on the left, I'm going to subtract 7 to get a 0 pair. And then I'll do that on the other side to keep the equation balanced. So I have 2x equals 9, because 16 minus 7 gives me 9. And then just to get that x by itself, remember, that is a 2 times x. So to undo that multiplication, we will divide by 2. And do the same on the other side. So a 2x divided by 2 gives me a 1x, or just x. And 9 divided by 2 gives me 4.5. All right, so in this case, x equals 4.5. Now, on this question in particular, it does not say to check your answer. However, you could check your answer if you wanted to. And if you're somebody who likes to do that, I am one of those people, it would look like this. So remember, even though we have a parenthesis next to our x, we still need to put our solution in parentheses. Otherwise, it might not work. So this is what our check should look like. And when you put that into the calculator, if you want to try it in your brain, that's great. But when you put that into your calculator, you should end up with 16 equals 16. And we would say, yeah, that is definitely true. 16 is equal to 16, so that must mean our solution is correct. Again, you do not have to do the check, but it's been a while since we've done it, so I just wanted to make sure you remembered how to do the check. It's always nice. I think that's one of my favorite things about math, and especially solving equations, is just the fact that if you want to and you take, just a couple extra minutes, you can know if you are correct, which is awesome because I have not experienced that in any other subject. So I really love that about math. All right, part B. Again, I'm just going to recopy here. So 23 plus 5x equals 7 plus 2.5x. Now, we do have these decimals that we're working with, and we could multiply everything in this equation by 10 to get rid of that decimal, but these aren't really terrible decimals. And if you're using a calculator, it's fine to just solve it the way it is written. I am going to draw a line here to keep my work organized. So what I would start with personally is I see I have a 2.5x on the right, and it's positive, so I'm going to subtract it on this side, which gives me a 0 pair. And then I'll subtract it from my x term on this side as well. So on the left, I'm left with 23 plus, 5x minus 2.5x is going to be a 2.5x, and that is equal to 7. All right, now I want to try to get that 2.5x by itself, so that means I'm going to have to remove this 23 by subtracting it. I get a 0 pair there, and I'm left with 2.5x on the left equals 7 minus oops, not 27. 7 minus 23. We want to keep that equation balanced. So when we do 7 minus 23, we should get negative 16. So we have a 2.5x equals negative 16. Let's divide by 2.5 on each side. That's how we get our x by itself while keeping the equation balanced. All right, that leaves us with an x. And then negative 16 divided by 2.5 should give us a negative 6.4. All right, and that is the answer to this equation. So I am going to erase this and I'll show you the check for this one. Again, you don't need it, but I really feel like it's been a long time since we've done it, so I do want you to see it just so you remember how to do that. So we would have 23 plus 5. Now x, we had a negative 6.4. We're putting that in parentheses. And then 7 plus 2.5x, again, putting in our solution in parentheses. Remember, folks, those parentheses matter. So now we can plug each side into the calculator. So 23 plus 5 times a negative 6.4. We're going to get a negative 9 on that side. Now let me check the other side here. We're going to have 7 plus 2.5 times negative 6.4. Remember to put those parentheses in your calculator, because if you don't, it could mess things up. And it might say your check is wrong when in fact your solution might actually be right. So I've got negative 9 equals negative 9 on both sides. That is a true statement, so our answer or our solution was correct. And part C, I'm going to copy that down here. So we have 3x plus 4.4 equals negative, let me fix that, negatives, or a negative 1 is implied, times the quantity of 6.6 plus x. What I want to do first, I'm just going to copy down exactly what I have here on the left. But what I want to do first is I have this negative outside of my parentheses. And like I mentioned earlier, even though there is not a 1 there, it is implied that it is a 1. So if you would like to write in a 1, you can definitely do that. That's fine. So that negative distributes to all of our terms, or in this case, our 2 terms inside of the parentheses. So I'm going to do a negative 1 times 6.6, which is going to give me a negative 6.6. And then plus, well, a negative 1 times x is going to give me a negative 1x, or just a negative x. All right, so in this case, I'm going to try to get my x on one side first. So I'll add an x here. That leaves me a 0 pair, and then I'll add an x on the other side to my x term, and that keeps my equation nice and balanced. So I have 4x plus 4.4. That equals negative 6.6. Now I want to work on getting this 4.4 off of this side, because I want my 4x by itself. So I'm going to subtract 4.4 from each side. I have a 0 pair there, and now I'll subtract 4.4 here. So a negative, and we're subtracting a number from it. So remember, this is the same as adding a negative. So what do we get when we have a negative 6.6 plus a negative 4.4? That's going to give us negative 11. And then we can bring down our 4x. So we have 4x equals negative 11. To get that x by itself, we will divide by 4. Same on the other side, And when we do negative 11 divided by 4, we should get x equals negative 2.75. All right, and for the check, I'll show you what that looks like here. Let me make some room. All right, and for the check for C, remember you always want to go back to the original equation. So it's going to be 3 times negative 2.75, see how I'm using my parentheses, plus 4.4, and that's going to be equal to a negative 1 times the quantity of 6.6 plus negative 2.75. Again, see how I'm using my parentheses, and I have, oh my goodness, I have a double parenthesis. That's okay. It looks funny, but you know, if you don't have that, that's how we get into dangerous territory where we might get the wrong answer. So let's go ahead and plug each side into the calculator. So I have 3 times a negative 2.75 plus 4.4. I get a negative 3.85 on both sides. And that is a true statement. So it looks like our solution of x equals negative 2.75 is correct, and we were good. So that is all for 9-141.